Hey class! Alright, hopefully you are comfortable with some of the basics in our studio. A lot of those basics will come out as we go through other things, so I will continue to point things out as we go along. But let's get you going with doing some of the basic things that you'll be doing over and over again in our studio. So let's go over the first help and tips file that I've made. And this will probably be the one that takes the most to get through, I would guess, because we're sort of at the beginning with using our studio. So this might be over a couple of videos, hopefully not. I'll try to keep it under 15 minutes. So, all right, I've opened up this script file and it is fully detailed, and let me point out some things to you. You'll notice that things are in different colors, and that means something. But all I want to point out to you is that anytime you want to just write a note to yourself to say annotate something or title something, and you want our studio to just skip right over it when it runs the code, you just add a little number sign or the pound sign. And that tells R that if you run that line, everything after it will be excluded. So if I say run this line number 7, it doesn't do anything than just spit back what I wrote there. It doesn't treat it like a command. So for example, if I were to take that sign out and then run this code again, it would say, I don't know what to do with this. This doesn't mean anything to me. So this number symbol is really powerful because it lets you write notes and full sentences to yourself in here, and it's what I've used to explain a lot of things. So this is just, again, a way to take notes within here so that I could, for example, highlight a bunch of code, run it, which I won't do just yet, and then it knows to just sort of skip over everything with the number symbols and then run the lines that don't have that little number symbol. So you're going to see a lot of those symbols because that's how notes are written in the script. Okay, clear that out. Okay, so step 1, I talked about this thing called packages. And again, packages are just extra tools we can use in our studio. They let us do more things. And for our purposes, that's great. I have a gigantic list of packages in a script file somewhere that I keep so that I know these are the tools I want to load on at a given time. But in any event, again, here's the list of packages that I have installed. But how do you actually install a package if you don't have things? Well, let's see. The command is just install.packages, and then in quotes, you type the name of the package. And then I can run that. Now, I already have this installed, but I'm just going to run it again. And you're going to see that it's going to do some thinking down here. And it's thinking, and now it's going to do some downloading. Great. And it's done. All I had to do was say install.packages and the name of the package. How do you find the names of packages? Well, one is you are given them by somebody. So I'm giving you a bunch of packages in these scripts. Another thing is if you just Google search, say, packages in R Studio, you can get all sorts of different options that are out there. You can just Google them and look for all sorts of things that are out there. So you can just Google different packages depending on your needs. But for our purposes, I'll tell you everything you need. So, great. So let's say you have this package, and I've installed this thing called the psych package. Great, I have it. I can't actually do anything with it until it's open. I like to think of packages also as like books on a shelf. By doing install packages, I've acquired this book called Psych. It's on my bookshelf. Now I want to use it, so I have to actually go to the bookshelf and take out the Psych package and open it up. How do we do that? We use the library command. And so I just do library Psych, and I did Control Enter. And yeah, it gives some warning message, but that doesn't mean it didn't run. It would tell you if it didn't run. So it worked. It uploaded itself. It opened itself up. It's just fine. And a good way to check is to go over to here in your packages list. And you see I have the Psych package here. And I've got the little check mark by it. And the check mark means that I have successfully opened the Psych package. And now I can use all of its commands, which we will do in the next tips file. Okay. Oh, and just another little sort of tip. When the title is red and it's got the little asterisk there, that means that you should save the file. It's saying that there's a change that has been made from the last time you saved it. And so if you want to save the most current version, you should probably save it now. So I'm just going to hit File, Save, and there we go. And it is saved. Okay. So great. We've got packages. I've shown you how. Sorry about that. Little misclick there in the camera. So you've got your packages, and I've shown you how to do some basic math, like we could do 5 times 450 down here, for example. Great. So the whole point we do a stats class is because we're going to do something with data. So we need to import some data. And there are a few things you can do with data. I'll show you in the next video, but you can type in the data manually and do something like this, where you type in numbers and assign it to things, etc. But for our purposes, everything for the most part is going to be in a data file that I've already given you. And there are the 2 data files on Moodle, the 2 data folders on Moodle, book data, class data here. So if you go into these and save these, you are going to save them to some folder on your drive, on your desktop, on some class folder you have. And you're going to have all these data files. Now let's say open one of them. And I want to open the NBA data that I have here, this NBA data. I use that as example data for the first half of the class. So there are 2 ways to import data. My preferred way is to do it directly in a command line. I think it's the most efficient. And all you do is, and I'll just sort of reconstruct this for you here so you see what it is. All you do is you say, I want the name of my imported data set to be called NBA 15. And I have to use the command read.csv because I'm going to be importing a .csv file. These are all .csv files. That's how I've made all of them. That's how they will all be. So now that I've done that, great, I've got the name of my new data set, NBA 15, as terms of how R will recognize it. I've got this command read.csv. Now I need to tell R to go fetch it. How do I tell it to go fetch it? Well, I need to give it a file path name. So you need to go to your computer and find the name of the file path and drop it in here. So to show you an example of how you might do that, I'm going to, all the different videos I've taken, experimenting. I am going to go to where I know I have data. And here is the NBA data that I have. And let's say I didn't already have the file path in there. I could go to this file that I have, I can right click on it, and I can say properties. It gives you the file path name up to the name itself. So I can just copy this location, hit OK, and I can go back to R and I can paste it in. There are two other things I need to do. First thing is, it's unfortunate, but the slashes are backwards. So I need to make these forward slashes. Secondly, I need to actually put in the name of the data file. And we already know what that is. It's NBA_14-15_team.csv. I'm just going to drop that in there. And great. And I'm just going to hit Control Enter. And I now have the data set here called NBA 15. 30 observations, 29 variables. Great. Now, let's say I didn't want to do it that way. There's another way to do it. I don't think it's as useful, but we will do it so I can show you. If you go up to this upper right box here, you can click on Import Dataset, and we do it from a text file. And now I'm going to go and seek out this data set that we just opened. Actually, I'm going to open up a new one just for to show you something different. I'm going to open up this data set called faculty, which we'll use at some point. And I'm going to select it, and I'm going to hit open. Now here's the thing. You've got to tell R a bunch of different options when you do this import data set. And there's some things you have to check. Number one, you have to say, does it have a heading, yes or no? If you say yes, that means that in the original data file, there are already variable names there. So yes. If I were to click no, it would say, hey, that first row you had, salary in college, whatever else, that was actually data. And so I'm going to make up variable names for you called V1 and V2 and V3 and V4 and V5. But yes, I have a heading, and it's the name of each of my variables. Great. Row names automatic. Separator, comma, yes. These are .csv, which stands for comma separated values. I did that because it's a good way to standardize things. Decimals a period, quotes a double quote, comments no. Strings as factors. In general, I think it is to your advantage to keep this checked marked. What this does is any names of things, so in this case, like for example, liberal arts is a string. It's not a number. It's not 10 or 15 or anything like that. It's a name. It's called a string. I'm going to say take all strings and consider that a kind of factor. Like, for example, Republican Party is one factor, Democratic Party is another factor, Green Party is another factor. In this case, I'm going to make strings as factors and then say import. And great. And it did it. And I see that it is up over here, and it spits out the look of the file, the data file here. And we'll go through viewing it in a second. So yes, let's actually view this. And great. Okay. So to actually look at what my data frame looks like in R, I can use this view function and the name of my data frame, NBA 15, and I can just do Control Enter and bring it up. And there it is. This is my data file. This is all of it. I can also click on it, NBA 15, and it'll do the same thing. If I want to look at, I'm just going to skip this middle part for a second. If I just want to quickly look at the top part of my data frame, it will give you the first 6 rows. And if you have more than a certain number of variables, it's going to put it, as you can tell, in 2 awkward chunks here. There isn't much to interpret from this, but sometimes you just want to look at the top and the bottom of your data set to make sure that it loaded properly. I can see that I've got 30 cases ending, and I've got these variables: rank, team, G, MP, field goals, etc. Anyway, okay. pause on this video for the moment.